Namaste and welcome to today's episode. A lot of people talk about saying I should not be eating certain type of food, especially when it comes to carb. There's a lot of misunderstanding saying what carbs are good, what carbs are bad. Now, one of the carbs that people always demonize is rice. They say, no, I can't eat rice, or I should eat only brown rice. I should eat red rice or black rice, and I should not eat white rice because white rice leads to diabetes. White rice has a lot of problem. So there are three things that people say that rice is bad for us. Okay, rice had been a staple diet. So if it had been a part of a staple diet, how come rice has become bad for us in the last 30, 40 years? And if rice is really bad for us, what can we do? Which was there in our ancient lifestyle that we can reincorporate to make rice a healthier option for people for whom it is a staple diet. Now, please understand, two-thirds of the world eats rice. If you go to eastern countries, okay, if you go to east of India, if you go to south of India, the rice is a staple diet. It's only north where wheat becomes a staple diet because of the climatic conditions. So, one, rice is not bad. Secondly, white rice has been demonized, saying that if you eat white rice, blood sugar will go up, you'll have diabetes. And India is a diabetic capital. People started saying diabetes and rice go hands in glove. But that's not really the true story. Or is it a true story? That's something that we will find out today. See, every food has got a GI, glycemic index. While we should not be worried about or we should not be calculating GI for every food, but this is more from an understanding and an education purpose. See, GI means if the food is low on GI, that means if you eat it, your blood sugar will move up slowly. Okay, the insulin that is required and that will be released from your pancreas will be low. Versus food which is high on GI. Food which are high on GI spikes your blood sugar. The more your blood sugar is, body will produce more insulin to bring that blood sugar down and to move that sugar into the cells. And over a period of time, excess use of or excess elevated blood sugar will lead to a condition known as high blood sugar or pre-diabetic or diabetes, and that's what is working in India. Now, the GI of an apple is around 38 versus a GI of rice, same amount of rice is around 64. So that means apple being sweeter, okay, which has got more fructose, spikes the blood sugar lower than the same amount of white rice that you take. Why so? See, rice has got there's a germ, there is a grain, there is endoderm, there is shell, there is a lot of covering on it. What we've done is, in order to make rice more palatable, in order to commercialize, in order to ensure the shelf life is increased, and to make rice more aromatic, we started doing a lot of processing, so milling processing, where the shell, the germ, everything is removed, and what is left is what you get the polished white rice. Traditionally, rice is not been not eaten as a white rice. White rice has been there for last 30, 40 years, and that's where the problem have started to aggravate. Now, what happens is when you have basically removed the most of the fiber content of the rice. Now, what is left is nothing but starch. Okay, so what white rice is that you get is a high source of starch, and we know that eating high starch leads to high blood sugar. High blood sugar over a period of time can lead to so-called type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes or elevated blood sugar levels, and which leads to other metabolic disorders in the life. So if you are able to fix this GI of rice, if you are able to bring the GI of rice, which is on an average around 64, 65, to low levels, that means your home. So if you eat bamboo rice or black rice or red rice, the GI is low. If you eat more of basmati, if you eat more of white rice, the GI is much higher. So the average of the rice comes to 64. Now, what happens is there are 2-3 ways where you can reduce the GI of a simple plain white rice that you eat at home. Okay. First thing what you should do is when you're boiling the rice, okay, try and soak the rice first, and then you throw that water and use fresh water to boil your rice. Okay, that's part one. Part two, adding coconut oil or adding ghee. So let's say you're cooking rice for 4 people, then up to 2 spoons of ghee or coconut oil. If you add it to the cold water before you start to boil the rice, what will happen is coconut oil and ghee changes the GI of food. And that's the reason, if you remember, people always eat dal chawal or khichdi with ghee or coconut oil, which is whatever is native to you or local to you. Now, when you add ghee while preparing the rice, okay, uh, the short chain fatty acids, the triglycerides in the ghee or in coconut oil binds with the starch of rice. And when they bind with the starch of rice, it changes the composition. That means it makes the GI of the food lower. When the GI is lower, the elevation of blood sugar will be slow. When the elevation of blood sugar will be slow, the insulin required to fix it would be less. When that is less, you have less cases of insulin resistance. Okay. Having said that, obviously you should eat all grains in moderation and add variety to it. So just because the GI can be lowered of rice, you just keep on eating rice and not eating so-called other grains. That's not what we want to educate you on. So when you're cooking rice, then add some ghee to it. Third method, which is something that has to be used for all starches. When I say all starches, it means legumes. When I say all starches, it means rice. When I say all starches, it means all your tuber vegetables like potato and sweet potato. Okay. So when you're cooking any food which has got starch, uh, starch has a tendency to elevate blood sugar. Now there is something known as a term known as resistance starch. Okay, how do you create that? You boil the product, you cook the product by steaming, boiling, whatever is your method of cooking. Then you cool it down completely. So that means you boil your rice and don't consume it then and there. Just cool it down. Let it cool down completely. Come to a room temperature. Okay. A good benchmark is you cook your rice and eat it after 12 hours. So you cook it in the morning and eat it in the night. You cook it tonight and you eat it tomorrow morning or afternoon, whatever is your time. Now, when you heat and you cool down, what happens is the starch becomes stiff. It becomes what we call a resistant starch. Now, the resistant starch does not elevate the blood sugar the way normal starch does. Hence, age-old recipes have been you eat cold rice with hot curry, maybe a curry or a dal or a sabji, whatever lentil you want to do. So the starch has to be cold, the curry has to be hot. You mix it, both becomes at a room temperature. Now, if you have cooked something, some starchy food, you have cooled it down and you reheat it. Okay? Because people say, I can't eat cold food, I can't eat something out of a fridge immediately. So, if you cook, cool, and reheat, even if you reheat the food, the resistant starch does not break the way it does when it is really piping hot out of the gas. So, that means you can cook, cool, and reheat, and the resistant starch would be low. Quick experiment. If all the lifestyle factors, let's say your sleep, your hydration, your exercise, your stress, the food that you take is same, okay, and you check your blood sugar by eating 2 hours after eating a rice which is cooked right off the gas versus a rice which has been cooked, cooled for 12 hours, reheated, may not be reheated, and then you consume it. Keep everything else same, the same quantity of dal or sabji or fruits and lifestyle, and observe your blood sugar. You will see the spike in the blood sugar will be lower if you're eating rice which is cooked, cooled, and then consumed. Okay? Because you're creating something known as resistant starch. Resistant starch also creates something known as gut microbiome. So what does this? Resistant starch becomes a food for the good bacteria. Now the good gut bacteria, when it gets food which is favorable for them, the number grows. When their number goes, the bad gut bacteria's number is reduced and your gut health is balanced. That is one of the reasons people have been eating fermented rice, because fermented rice increases so-called the good gut bacteria, because it creates something known as resistant starch. Now, some people will come back saying that I have been eating piping hot idlis and idlis made of rice. This theory does not hold true. We have to understand that when you're eating rice, which is in form of idli or a fermented rice, what you're doing is you're killing the sugar, or you're breaking down the sugar, or you're pre-digesting the starch by fermenting it. So if you can't ferment the food, the best way to eat a starchy food is to cook, cool, and then consume. Okay. So adding ghee or coconut oil while cooking your rice, and cooking, cooling, and eating it then will ensure that rice does not spike your blood sugar and rice is not bad. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and we'll catch up soon. Namaste.